With 3 extra H's today. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Monday Night Raw Wrestling Inc. after show. We got Justin, Jack, and Jimmy. It's the Triple J in honor of Triple H, I guess, this time around. Guys, before we get into all the news, how you doing? Justin, you've been gone. You've missed all the excitement, but you're here when it matters most. How was your trip? How was your time off?
It was great. I got a lot of sunshine. Traveled in through the Carolinas and a lot of sunshine. Great, relaxing. It's never long enough, but great, relaxing fun. Got to hit a little reset, little recharge, and came back and had SummerSlam Saturday night. The podcast here in Wrestling Inc. Sunday we had a big IWC wrestling show here in the Pittsburgh area. We had Penta Oscuro. We had Enzo Amore. We had Cole Carter, Matt Taven. My man Spencer Slade. Was just a hell of a show for a Sunday afternoon, and here I am now on Monday. So right back into it, full drive.
Wow, a lot of good names there. Everyone's got to go check that out when they got a moment. Jimmy, were you a part of any trips or wrestling shows this weekend?
I did make a slight trip to Montreal for a sad reason. It was a memorial service for my wife's uncle, but other than that, it was a short trip, and I did. Despite the sadness, I did get to enjoy a lot of good wrestling this weekend, which, obviously Justin covered it. SummerSlam this weekend was, I thought, very good. And, since you went through the Carolinas, I hope you wooed a few times. And, shout out to my old man there, Ric Flair, on his retirement match. Just got to give him not only a shout out, but a thank you for everything, Rick, that you did for us.
Before we get into the news real quick, that I was thinking today how crazy it is I remember when I was younger watching TV in the late 90s thinking Ric Flair is going to have to retire soon. Little did I know that it was going to be over 20 years later. He has his last match so far. And how many other people, like I remember he's standing next to Batista and he was the older guy that was going to retire soon with the new young guy, but he outlasted Batista too. It's crazy how long he went. So yeah,
he outlasted Triple H technically.
Yeah,
Triple H, Vince McMahon, he outlasted everybody.
But you got to give him a heck of a shout out because it's not often that guys get to go out on their terms in this industry and get to end their careers the way they like. Rick got to do that, and not only deserved that, earned that opportunity. And you can make a lot of claims of who's on your Mount Rushmore of pro wrestling wrestlers. Ric Flair is pretty much in every conversation. If you don't want to categorize him as the greatest of all time, he's at least top 4.
And let's also not talk about that event real quick without giving props to Conrad Thompson.
Yeah,
I've worked with Conrad when they did a live event. He and Bruce, they did the live show here in Pittsburgh. I was honored they asked me to help promote, and I got to help host it. Conrad's a smart guy who knows what he's doing, and he continues to show with every endeavor, every podcast. I mean, obviously Rick is his now father-in-law, so there's an extra tie there with the family. But I mean, just to do what he did, to get it moved into the venue they did, to have the crowd they did, to have the Crockett Promotions, to have the set, to have the guest list of Taker, of Hart, of Foley, of Kid Rock. I mean, like to pull that off, and oh, by the way, to do it the day after SummerSlam, because normally, things would piggyback off of WWE events. Everybody could stay in town until the WWE event happens. But WWE did SummerSlam on Saturday. That's their new thing. So you're not going to go head to head with SummerSlam. So to do it the next day and still get that kind of a crowd, and people can say what they want about Flair or how he might have looked, but that's besides the point. The card they put together, which never mind the Rick match, the rest of the card is really damn impressive. So to put that many, I think Jimmy even called it a few weeks ago, that is a true revolving door with the amount of different. A WWE executive was in the main event match with Jeff Jarrett. So for Conrad to pull off what he did, you really got to give mad respect to Conrad Thompson, who I haven't talked to Conrad about this recently, but if he wants to, I think he could have more future of promoting events, wrestling events. Maybe even could be an asset to New York if he ever wanted to venture north and leave the podcast game.
Yeah, I have a feeling this is not his last show. It was too successful to walk away. You never walk away when it's successful. You wait until you've ran it into the ground. That's the rule of entertainment here in America. I only ever got to meet Conrad once, and I met him, and I walked up to him and I said, "Hey, I'm Jack. Great to meet you." He's like, "Hey, I'm Conrad. Good to meet you too." And then someone said, "Hey, Conrad, can I talk to you for a second?" And he got pulled away, and that was the end of the interaction. Not a great story, but I figured I'd share it. In any case, we have some news to talk about. And we're going to start with, I think, the big news. Of course, everyone's talking about Triple H being in charge, and that means who may end up showing up back in WWE. And there's been a major update on Sasha Banks and Naomi reportedly returning to WWE. Wrestling News Co. reported earlier today that they were told an agreement has been reached for both Banks and Naomi to return to the company. Brian Alvarez of the Wrestling Observer Live podcast stated that a source confirmed the report to him. He said he believed the report was accurate, but couldn't say 100% definitively that it was true. Now, of course, them leaving was a big deal. Raj, of course, our very own Raj, he reported that Sasha Banks was officially done with the company, and there was a whole Twitter melee firestorm after that. But new people in charge, new things happen, people come back. We've seen it already. Justin, let's start with you. This would be a huge deal if they were able to get these two back.
Well, it would be a huge deal, but like you just said, Jack, I mean, we already just saw it, maybe to a smaller degree, with Io Sky and Dakota Kai. I believe Kai, released and gone, and now back again. And with the Sasha Naomi thing, to the best we understand it, it was never about money. It was them walking out, not liking the direction of the creative and of their characters. And so now, if the person who was in charge of the leading of the direction of the and they had the disagreement with, if that person's no longer there, of course I'm talking about Vince McMahon. It changes everything. I mean, if they and they both have obviously worked with Triple H extensively in their NXT time. So if they say okay, and Triple H can make a pitch to them, and we can get back on the same page, they haven't been scooped up by anybody else, AEW or anybody. So it's like, yeah, I kind of, this is one of those things when we saw the Triple H was taking over. It was one of the things that crossed my mind of he should be able to get them back, unless their anger or what have you stretches beyond Vince and it's too big in the company, and unless it's something more, unless the environment of the culture, but it seems to be, I don't know, I'm sure Jimmy could back me up on this. It seems from just sending feelers out to people that are there right now in the last week and a half, the morale in the WWE locker room and company wide, even stretching to the office, has been boosted just because there's a fresh perspective, I think, right now happening.
No. Yeah, Jimmy, to that point too, is part of me is thinking as we're talking about this, they left a while ago, and it was I think it was a few months back. The time is May 16th is when they walked out, and people are still constantly talking about them. In a way, hasn't this sort of proved their worth?
No, absolutely it has, because people are still talking about them. And as we heard today, we'll find out soon enough whether they are actually officially back. But it also speaks volumes for the man Triple H himself, because there is that comfort factor that the talent has with him, especially those that work with him in NXT, and they feel a comfort level. And this isn't a shot at Vince. Vince has this aura about him where people feel a little bit intimidated going up to him and approaching him, whether it's coming up with hey, can I run this idea by you? Hey, can I speak to you for a minute? Whatever the case may be. Hunter is very approachable. Hunter is very accepting. If he can't talk to you at the moment, he'll say, cool, hang on, I will come find you later, and stuff like that. It's just, there's that comfort factor with Hunter that maybe it didn't exist with Vince. And they also apparently feel that with Stephanie as CEO, that's also a big plus as well, because she is well liked as well by the talent. So it's a win-win right now. And judging off the first weekend of the Triple H era, I think we're off to a good start.
And beyond the approachable factor that he has, he also has a reputation, and it started with NXT. And maybe this will wear off. Maybe a callus will be built up to where he realizes he has to be more this way. But right now, he doesn't have the same stubbornness. Vince also had a certain stubbornness of, we're going this direction. Not to say that he couldn't be, if you could pitch him and give him a better idea, but there was a certain stubbornness, which again, maybe you have to develop when you have this many talent that you have to creatively lead. You can't just be a pushover and just take everybody else's idea. You got to stick to what a direction is. But I feel like it senses that, Vince had his mind made up, and that's what it was going to be. And obviously that caused the walkout, it seemed. It just feels like beyond the approachability that there's just better chance for resolution or collaboration or middle ground to be found.
Well, speaking of people coming back, there's more people who are potentially coming back. And there was a little tease that came out recently. Instagram user at dsouza.tc.pb. I don't know how you'd pronounce that, but hey, I hope you get an extra follower or two for the shout out. Shared a story featuring Killer Kross's old theme song, Fall and Pray, from his time in WWE across NXT and Monday Night Raw. The interesting part about all of this is the fan made it clear they wanted Kross to make a comeback to WWE, writing, "Music is loud, music is angry, cardio is going strong. Here's to hoping that Killer Kross someday makes his return to WWE." Kross saw the fan story and ended up sharing it, teasing fans that he would be open to going back if the stars aligned properly. Jimmy, before we went on the air, we had chatted a little bit about these news stories we were going to be talking about. And I said, and I want to get your thoughts, it almost feels like Kross always knew he'd be coming back. He didn't sign any long contracts, as far as I know, sort of kept himself available. Do you think it's just a matter of time before Kross comes back?
It seems that way. And like I said earlier, because of that comfort factor that people have with Triple H, that rapport, that relationship that they had developed, maybe, with all the stuff that was going on and all the rumors flying about and people hearing certain things that sometimes we don't hear on here, as much as people think that all the news is out there. Sometimes they hear things. Maybe he had a feeling, look, I don't want to rush into a situation. I know a lot of times people leave WWE and they can't wait to go somewhere else and start again. Maybe his thought process was, look, yes, I am not there anymore. Did I enjoy my time there? He probably did, especially, again, like I said, working with Triple H, and thought, let me just sit back, relax, take it easy, maybe accept an indie booking here and there as opposed to signing with the company, and see where this leads. And if this leads back to WWE and with Triple H at the helm, chances are he might get a better position, for lack of a better term, or shot at proving himself. Again, it's going to fall on him to gain that audience and gain that interest in him, whatever he decides to do as a character or whatever character they give him. But at the same time, I think he feels more comfortable in this situation with Triple H. So the chances of him coming back to WWE, I think, are great.
Speaking of coming back, we get a question in the chat, Justin, and it's from Brian Barry. Speaking to you, is Bray next, Justin?
I don't know if he's the next one that you see on TV, if you're talking about him or Sasha and Naomi or potential Killer Kross. But I do think kind of to some of the same things that Jimmy just said about Kross, you can say with Bray, that Bray has not, Bray's been gone for a year, right? Over a year.
Yeah.
And he has not popped up anywhere else. So again, kind of same thing. He surveyed the landscape and for whatever, and also Bray's also made some pretty good money, so it's not like he has to, I think he's doing okay. And he's got I think he's got a young one at home, so you can take that time or what have you. I do think Bray Wyatt eventually will resurface at WWE. I just think he's too creatively talented, and once again, maybe just because it's changing things there that it opens up possibilities. But I think actually you might even see Kross before that. I don't know. I think Kross, again, I agree with what Jimmy said. Killer Kross is the man behind the character. He's one of the smartest, most well-articulated guys that is in the wrestling business right now. Extremely intelligent guy. He did not sign with AEW. They wanted him to have the spot, have the match against Wardlow that W. Morrissey, the former Big Cass, had on that Dynamite episode. But they just wanted him, and he felt that his presentation with Scarlett was important, and so that never ended up materializing. And I'm glad, because I don't think that would have been the right spot, because you're going to be fed to Wardlow, and Wardlow's the guy to build him. So I think he's smart. He knows what he wants. He knows what his presentation needs to be. And yeah, he and Triple H had a really good bond. Triple H personally scouted and seeked him out for NXT. Triple H loved that Cross kept himself very hidden, wore a lucha mask to NXT to try to help keep from anything leaking out. They had a real good appreciation, and then it was shown on the booking. Cross was booked incredibly well. He was really booked as untouchable. Tremendous entrance and never got to be in front of the crowd because it was the pandemic. And then ended up getting swiped away to Raw, where it was just the bizarre experiment that didn't last too long. And so I do think that with not being bound anywhere long term, as far as we know, that Cross is probably having some conversations of okay, when's the right time creative wise, and figuring out all the logistics. And I think it is an inevitable thing. I don't know if it's gonna be as long as we got to wait till Rumble to see when we get surprises, but I think at some point we're gonna see Killer Cross and Scarlet back, and I think we will finally get on the Raw or SmackDown the presentation of him that was working in NXT that they never really gave a shot for whatever reason on Raw or SmackDown. And that excites me because I think that he could do some really great things if they continue what they started in NXT with him.
The Tornado, Anthony Y adds on, Hunter, let him in. Speaking of, obviously, to Bray Wyatt. I just got a quick follow-up question before we move on. And I'm going to ask you, Justin, because I like asking you all the questions that people like to argue about. Is this...
No, it's there.
Should AEW be worried?
Well, it's funny you say that. AEW needs to just keep doing their thing. But I will say that I will say there is a connection in the sense of like AEW had the luxury of having the new car smell and being the new alternative the last couple of years. That they had that luxury, and that there was a general I'm trying to find the right word. There was just a general kind of cloud over WWE of redundancy, again, rematches, and you have to beat the champion to then get a match as the champion, which we'll talk about that tonight. And there was just a certain kind of like stale, uncertain, like if a Bray Wyatt and if this person can get released for budget cuts, like how safe are you really? There was just a lot of like insecurity, I feel like. And so that made the new alternative that also could dish out 6- and 7-figure deals very appealing. But if there is a wind of change, if there is a morale boost, if there is a positive culture change going on in WWE that seems like it's happening, both from the office both from the gorilla position standpoint, with the pen, also stemming all the way into the office, that does matter in the sense of, from AEW, okay, now all the free agents, they might be giving WWE a little bit more consideration if there's more positive tones coming out from New York. Or your current AEW guys and girls, when their deals are up, it might not be Tony, it might not be a matter of you just get to not re-sign the ones you don't re-sign. You might get some MJF type action of like people saying, I don't know, I'm kind of considering going back over there and trying. I worked with Hunter in NXT. Now he's running Raw or SmackDown. Now Hunter controls who gets to be in the WrestleMania main event, and I get along with Hunter from a creative standpoint. So it does, in the big picture, it does matter. But in terms of week to week right now, AEW just needs to keep doing their thing. But it does. There is a connection, I do feel, if the small sample we've had in the last week and a half continues to extrapolate, and again the morale and positive creative changes happen for the most part. Yeah, I don't want to say AEW's in trouble, but it does matter.
You are going to be attacked by all the AEW fans now. But
I know all about that.
So it's but I think regardless of which company you're a fan of, or if you're a fan of both, it's nice that we're seeing so much new stuff, so much fresh stuff. And when I think of fresh, I think of HelloFresh. And with HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. You can savor every last second of summer with HelloFresh. HelloFresh delivers fresh quality produce from the farm to your door in less than a week, allowing you to enjoy the delicious flavors of the season right from home. Skip the grocery store and spend more time soaking up the last of the summer sun. HelloFresh Market is a one-stop shop for all your mealtime needs with a curated selection of quick breakfast, lunch, snacks, desserts, and more. I love this stuff. I get it all the time. I eat it all the time. Makes me feel like I'm a really good chef. And frankly, after I'm done cooking it, now I become a better chef when I'm not using it, because now I kind of understand how to make some stuff. Jimmy, you've recently become a big fan of HelloFresh.
Absolutely. I've used their product and I love it, especially considering my little thing that I do called Ref to Chef, from Ref to Chef. And it is perfect. It is. I don't want to say it's simple and easy, but it pretty much is. I mean, you get everything you need to create a great meal, and it is a great meal. And my wife and I enjoyed it very much when we get it, and we're in the process of ordering some more.
Yep. It's a great deal. You can go to HelloFresh.com/INC16 and use code INC16 for 16 free meals across 7 boxes and 3 free gifts. Again, go to HelloFresh.com/INC16 and use code INC16 for 16 free meals across 7 boxes and 3 free gifts. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. As the Tornado Anthony Y says again, time to shake things up. Justin, let him in. Justin, you're the one with the power here. Let him in. Why don't you?
I have Hunter online too. Well, yes, you have to remember too. It's all about timing too. You don't want to, you don't want to just, we already saw again, but some of the ladies come back at SummerSlam. You don't want to just unload too many returns and what have you, all because then it takes away from each of them. So, you space it out and you time it out. Hey, it'd be nice to have a big surprise for Survivor Series. Hey, it'd be nice to have. We need a big draw for the Saudi show. Hey, that would be a killer. Can we hold that for Rumble? So it's just all about timing. But I think everybody we've mentioned, though, Sasha, Naomi, Bray, Cross, for all the reasons we've talked, I think they all inevitably will be back on WWE TV in the next 6 months to a year at most.
Cool.
Well, let's talk about this episode. But first, let me give a shout out to everyone who's joining us live here in the chat. Dylan Matthews, we got Sergio Cardenas. Let me know if I'm saying that right. Tina Miller in the chat. Dream Realm Studios, Baby Ice, No Bueno Crew, Blue Chew, Deanna Palamatier. Let me know if I'm saying that one right. Burner Account. Of course, Jeff Lopez, Stephen Camp, Tornado Anthony Y, I Do What I Want, Alicia A, and everyone else. Thanks so much for joining us live here in the chat. Francisco and Pat Robinson as well coming in there. Thank you so much for joining us live here in the chat. We love chatting with you guys. Of course, let us know what you think here in the super chats, but also let us know if you're watching or listening on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. Hit us with a like, comment, a share, subscribe. Leave us a little 5-star review and leave a little comment so we know that you watch. I always love to see those. Those are always make me feel a little bit better. And before finally going in, Tina Miller, I gave her a shout out a second ago. She has a super chat. She says it feels good to be excited about WWE again. As fans of wrestling, we wish all companies success, so there is a place for good talent to thrive. Tina Miller, I think, hitting the nail on the head.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. It doesn't matter what lawn sign you fly. You should enjoy it all, and at least try to enjoy it, and stop trying to critique everything. Leave that to people like myself for my ref and rants.
Well,
cheap plug.
Ref and rants. Check Jimmy out. But we got to start to this show, and Becky Lynch comes out. She opens the show, and she lets us cheer her, which for me just feels right. She says that she remembered who she was, and it's not the fancy clothes. She tells everyone that she separated her shoulder at SummerSlam, and then she thanks Bianca Belair, and Bianca calls her the man, which I thought was a really cool moment. During Bianca's promo, though, we get chaos backstage as Bayley and her crew take out Becky Lynch and her already injured arm. Justin, I loved the opening to this. I feel like it finished the story with Becky Lynch. It let me cheer for her again, but then we also have the chaos and anarchy that makes Raw so much fun.
Yeah, I like this. This was, Becky really was reading my mind. I tweeted something to the effect Saturday, even of like, the fans want to cheer her. Let her just embrace that cheer. I was kind of over the emo Lady Gaga vibe that I was getting with the crazy outfits. And again, like I said, the emo, So I like the fact that she kind of made reference to maybe she's that maybe that little portion of her character's done, and she's not gonna be that costumey, and she's gonna be back to the man and back to acknowledging the fans. So I was all for this, and then just a little bit of just that little bit of chaos of the camera racing backstage, and Bianca needs a rush back. I mean, it was just a great pace setter for the night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jimmy, this is, like I said, the anarchy that I love about Raw, and something we talked about last week made you feel like you need to pay attention, because I love that they cut off Bianca in the middle of her promo to go to the back for this happening.
Right, because it made it feel like big news. It made it feel like a big time situation by cutting her off and going straight to the back. And yes, the other thing I loved about it was, like you guys said, the fans want so badly to cheer Becky, no matter what she was doing, crazy outfits she was wearing and crazy stuff she was saying. They wanted to cheer her, and they got that opportunity. And when she came out, her music hit and she came out, you heard that crowd pop. They went absolutely banana. And the other thing I love too is she showed not only respect, but she put over the champion Bianca big time as well. So that was a win-win situation, and creating more heat for Bayley and company as well. And like Justin said, it wasn't overdone. It didn't take too long. It was quick. It was like I hate to use this term, like a drive-by.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what I mean? Sometimes quick and easy is better, and we got a little more of that, and we'll talk about that later too as well.
Yeah, we did get a little bit more. We got another super chat though, and the Tornado Anthony Y, Justin's coming for you. He says, "Hey Justin, remember Payback 2 years ago? I remember." Do you have some unfinished business with the Tornado Anthony Y, Justin LaBar?
Has he got some heat there, bro?
I got heat with everybody. Payback 2020, so that would have been Thunderdome.
I absolutely do not remember.
I'm guessing because he keeps chatting about the Fiend. I think I want to say that was one of the nights that Fiend probably lost to Roman, or probably lost a big match.
Right.
Yeah. I think that probably would have been what that. I don't know what his point is.
You could not. I have. If there was a gun to my head and you told me to tell you what was on the Payback of 2 years ago, I'd be a dead man. I want to talk. We don't really have to touch on this too much, but Justin, you actually did allude to it on Twitter. So before we get into more of the matches, I just want to say I absolutely loved that U.S. Championship video package they did, with all the history of it, and not just the recent history, not even just the WWE history, but I love that they put in the WCW history and all the old stuff. Justin, kind of explain a little bit before we get into the matches. It's just like the history and how it's why it's important for them to show that package.
Oh yeah, I tweeted perception is reality. You have this United States title. It's not this title that was just, it's not the 24/7 title or something that was just created recently. I mean, it's just got such a rich history, and it's a title. It's a title that WWE inherited when they purchased WCW, and all that comes with it. It's a title that goes back, in through the WCW days, through the NWA days. So it has, it's the counterpart to WWE's Intercontinental title. That mid-card title, that the second highest profile singles champion behind your world. WWE always had the Intercontinental, which has a great lineage, but then that US was everybody else. Was that US champion could travel the territories. And so from Harley Race, all the way. I mean, there's so many Hall of Famers that have held that title, from Harley Race's generation to Stone Cold Steve Austin once upon a time held that US title. So just to give that quick history lesson right there, it's just the simplest thing. You own all the footage of these people. So just to put together a little thing of like, hey, whether you're a fan of 30 plus years like myself, or whether you're a fan that's in the last 5 years, just to remind people and let them know what this title's about. Oh, wow. And it's it's the only singles title that's on Raw regularly right now. So you immediately so that makes it even easier. It would have been harder if we still had the two world champions on each show, but right now Raw doesn't have that. So again, it seems like this was like an immediate checklist thing for Hunter. Was we got to start making these other titles mean something so we can build a show around it, which tonight was built around this title, which perfect. And oh, by the way, the guy holding it is a former world champion, Bobby Lashley. So it's not like not like we have to do extra work to make people believe in who he is. He's done. He's already made man. So it was just a simple thing to set the tone again for what we're going to talk about tonight, which was making guys fight multiple matches. They made them work. It made it seem like this is a piece of treasure worth fighting for. Loved it, absolutely loved it. Great, again, another great pace setter for the theme of the night.
And it was definitely like they fought for it. These were great matchups. Jimmy, I want to start with you. We get AJ Styles versus The Miz versus Ali, and the crowd seemed like they were very much behind AJ Styles throughout this one. I think they are ready to see him be successful. But I want to ask you about The Miz here. The Miz comes out, his ribs are all taped up. And I thought this is going to be Miz shenanigans hour, like they usually are. There's going to be some sort of cheapness there, but he actually he had the busted ribs. Like it impacted the match that his ribs were hurt. Right. Do you think if I'm trying to sort of see what the future of this Raw world looks like now, do you think they have something big in store for the Miz and they're trying to protect him a little bit from taking just a straight loss?
Well, here's the thing. Miz is someone who is a true legit heel, which is hard nowadays for somebody to get legit heel heat in the world of pro wrestling, not just in WWE. That's across the map, pretty much. Miz has become the guy to go to if you want to get a baby face over. And he will always have a place, either upper mid card or something like that. He will be there. And that's coming from someone who was there the night he got banished from the locker room, and seeing him go from that to what he has become now, one of the best heels in the business, is amazing. And I think there will always be a place near the top for him, if not at the top. And he will be a guy who will be used to make other guys.
But is fighting through an injury, isn't that kind of the good guy role? Isn't that sort of different for a Miz?
Well, it is a little bit, but at the same time, it kind of protects him in this situation, even though he didn't eat the loss in this three-way match. It still kind of protects him and keeps him fresh and saying, hey, yeah, we know he's a bad guy. Would have liked to see him get pinned in this one, but it kind of keeps a little bit of heat on him anyways.
Justin, watching this one, my takeaways were AJ's a made man. Like he can do no wrong. He's going to be fine. Miz is a made man. He'll be fine no matter what. But looking at Ali in this match, in a lot of ways, especially as things are new, still kind of trying to earn his spot on network television. Now we know who Ali is. We know he's great. But if you were like a newer fan or you didn't know what was going on in the world, do you think Ali did enough to earn more time on TV?
I think so. Ali worked to this match tonight like it was his one chance, like it was his one audition. And I don't necessarily think that's the reality of the situation, but I think he's gone through some stop and starts in his main roster career, from the all holy hell that was Retribution to, when he resurfaced as a single star and he had to keep trying to prove himself and whatever. And I think he said, look, I'm in a match tonight that's supposed to be a big deal, a qualifying match for a title, in there with two guys you said that are made men, that are surefire Hall of Famers, and AJ and Miz. I got to kill it. I got to stand. I got to get to their level, and I think he did. The tornado DDT from the top to the outside to AJ. I can rave and crave about it now because it seems like all parties are fine. But when I saw it, I audibly, oh my God. Yeah. Because that move can go wrong if somebody's wrong. I think all in all, I think he made himself stand out. And at the very least, again, if you're kind of a casual viewer, you're tuning in because they're coming off of SummerSlam or whatever, you know who AJ Styles is, you know who the Miz is, you've heard the names. Mustafa Ali might be a new one for you, but I think you're at least going, all right, I'll watch that guy again. I think he maximized his minutes as old JR would say.
Yeah. So AJ gets the win. He's moving on to later on in the night. And we get a couple of backstage segments, and it's Bayley basically saying backstage with Becky and attacking her had nothing to do with Becky. It's all about this new trio. And they run into the Usos, who say they've got a match with the Mysterios later tonight. Jimmy, I want to come back to you with these little interactions and things. So far in the show, and this was only like 30 minutes into the show, but they're already establishing things that happened earlier in the show are going to pay dividends later. But more stuff is coming up later, and this is what to expect. And that, to me, this was actually one of my favorite bits of the night, was just because it was saying it matters what you've seen so far. Did you have any takeaways from this kind of setup here?
No, I loved it. And again, here was a situation where it wasn't overly done. It was, I don't want to say it was too quick, but they didn't drone on and on about, Bailey and that faction just kind of said their piece. They were on their way out of the building. Here come the Usos. They said their piece to set up the match for later on. It was quick. It was to the point, and it made you go, okay, we're going to get the Usos versus Mysterios later on. I can't wait to see this. They made me want to see it, even though they didn't really say a whole lot. And
with that, I mean, I thought what was great is it let us know that there were issues with Bailey, and not just one person, but the full women's division. Also that the Usos, they've got issues with some people. But I think the biggest issue, Justin, is the Tornado, Anthony Y. He says that there's nuclear heat. Jack, appreciate the Tornado, Justin. You ain't down with the Tornado Nation like Alfred.
I am not down with the Tornado. I'm down in my storm shelter, so the Tornado can't get me.
You hear that, Anthony? You're going to get hit with the storm shelter on the outside. That doesn't make sense. But we continue on, and we get to a moment with Seth Rollins where he comes out and he says that Riddle crossed the stupid line, which was one of my favorite lines of the night. But he said that now Riddle is on the shelf, and now he wants to take on Roman Reigns. And the crowd went nuts. But then the Street Profits come out, and they interrupt Rollins, and Rollins calls them losers, and he says they should break up, and they decide that one of them should fight Rollins, and they're about to figure out who, but Montez, a little sneaky, decides to take the reins, and he goes and gets the match going, and eventually, of course, Rollins gets the win. Before attacking Montez after the match, Dawkins chases Rollins off. Justin, I feel like this is probably, if we talk about layers here, this part of the show probably has the most layers to look at. I want to start with Montez. Montez clearly acting a little different, clearly looking out for himself a little bit here. Is this the start of what a lot of people have been talking about for a long time? Is this the start of the breakup of the Street Profits?
Probably. And also just looking at the context of, we've seen some amazing matches with them and the Usos, and obviously they haven't been able to take the titles off the Usos. So, it's like, what else is there for them to do at this point? So yeah, probably. I think the question now next becomes, the Street Profits probably aren't, in 3 months from now, they're probably not a tag team or in tag team matches, but does this have to be the old fashioned tag team 101 breakup where one goes heel and one goes face? Can this be, kind of what the New Day's been able to do? Everybody's been waiting, the New Day's been around for an eternity, relatively speaking. But the New Day's never had a backstabbing moment to each other. They've always remained. They've been able to have different entrance music. They've been able to be on different brands. One has been able to be in singles, while the other two are in tag, what have you. But they've always still had an alliance. They always can still be associated with each other, but can still be booked in singles feuds. So, like, is that where this goes? Is there like a healthy respect to where it's like, good, both of these guys are charismatic baby faces. Let's not make the audience choose. Let's just have one be on Raw, one be on SmackDown. So that's kind of what I'm watching to see is, let's not force the Shawn Marty situation if we don't have to, if we think both can be Shawn's, but they just need a little bit of space from each other, so that way their charisma can not clash with each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Jimmy, I want to speak on that as well. This is maybe just my perception. I want to get your thoughts here. Seth Rollins comes out and he says, "I want to turn my attention to Roman Reigns," and the crowd was pretty excited about that. They got pretty pumped about the idea of seeing those two go at it. And then when the Street Profits came out, it felt like they were almost a little bummed out they weren't getting the Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins. It felt like a little bit like, oh, I thought you were going to do something else. And it felt like the crowd wasn't really that into it. And I guess just going forward, it felt like the whole time the crowd was waiting for something. It was very quiet during this match, I thought, especially considering who was in there. Crowd turned out to be kind of quiet the whole night for the most part. I said it. You were kind of quiet the whole night, crowd. But one, I just want to talk to you about like the pacing of that. How do you feel about Raw? Do you think that's just a tease for later? What do you think's going on with the Rollins Reigns things? And was that the right idea to do that?
It's just seed planting is what it is right now. The Rollins Reigns things. Here are guys that were in a group together, and they've had their moments both together and against each other, and they're teasing that it might happen again. And Rollins, Monday Night Rollins, he brought that back, Monday Night Rollins, and the stuff with the Street Profits, like Justin said, it would be a nice change to see them go their own way, but without having it be against each other or turning on one another and that kind of thing. Because, we've seen them both in singles matches and they both have it as singles competitors. But even though some people say that Tez has a little more of it than Angelo Dawkins. And I see it as well. I think Montez Ford has the ability to be a big star as a singles competitor. And that's not a knock on Dawkins in the least, but we'll see where this goes forward. I'd like to see them take their time and tell a story and give us reasons for everything happening as opposed to just doing it.
Well, I want to double up on that for you, Jimmy, because we did get a super chat from DHub2332 saying, is Seth Rollins a Triple H guy? Do you see them putting the titles on him because Seth is a Triple H guy? Jimmy, do you think that that's the case?
No, Seth, Triple H understands the business because that's what it is at the end of the day. It's a business. Triple H isn't going to put the title on Seth because, he's my buddy or he's one of my guys. Triple H is going to do what's best for the company. And you talk about someone, this argument, sports entertainment versus pro wrestling. If you can talk someone who can bridge the gap between both audiences and meshing pro wrestling with sports entertainment in a way that can satisfy both audiences, I think Triple H has the mind and is one guy that can do it.
Justin, I want to go back to the crowd here tonight because I was wondering something as I was listening because it felt kind of quiet throughout the night. Was the crowd really quiet or did we just get used to pumped in crowd noise and now that it's not there as much, it feels quiet?
You took the words out of my mouth. It came off quiet on TV, but I think you're exactly right. I don't think there was any manipulated sound. And in the past, and in past weeks and months, there has been just noticeable audio pumped up sound for moments that they wanted to come off as big and what have you. But if you could hear it wasn't natural, and then if they happen to be showing the crowd while they make that, you could see like there's not the crowd movement that would normally equate to that kind of a sound. So yeah, I think that was another thing that was different tonight. There was not manipulated sound, and so the soundtrack did sound a little low. That the crowd did not have as much energy. We probably were more energized watching at home than they came off in person, and I'm not sure why. I don't know why. I don't know why. But it's not like Houston's a great wrestling town in terms of my first WrestleMania was in Houston. Houston's a great wrestling town with a lot of history, so it's not like people in Houston are just seeing this for the first time and trying to figure out what's going on. I'm not sure why, but I did think the same thing. There was not any manipulated sound, so maybe it's just what we've been getting used to was just not there. And I don't know what they do. I don't know if that's something they noticed tonight and they say, well, we got to keep pumping sound back in, or what. But
well, Jimmy, during this, this is the last thing I want to say on this segment, but I want to hold your feet to the fire here. This is a tough question for you. The Street Profits, I believe as Tez said, didn't Cody Rhodes beat you with one boobie? Is that the best line of the night?
It's definitely in the running for best line of the night because that one caught me off guard and got me laughing. So, and just when you think you've heard it all, there you go.
For Jimmy, that was the second best line behind number one when Edge is making his entrance into the ring, and Graves goes, "I wish Chimmel was back."
Yes, because that they tried to do that, the announcement, the Chimmel announcement, because what he used to do is, the rated R superstar. That was a Chimmel thing. And Chimmel used to do that with John Cena. He used to do the John Cena. You know what I mean? He'd have fun with it. No offense, Justin, but you're stealing that John from Chimmel. But anyway.
Yeah.
Do you think when someone has a signature entrance like that they should people should copy it, or should?
Well, Edge gave a little nod to Mike Rome, and Mike Rome did.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was like a bet or a dare, like can you try to chimmel it up for me tonight, or
right.
But it was fun. And
that's got to be an interesting line to walk. Like, do I do their signature entrance, or is that not mine to do? I don't know. No one else cares, but I'm.
Hey, it's Edge. If Edge wants himself announced that way, it doesn't matter who's on the mic. He's going to get it announced that way.
So we get Alexa Bliss versus Asuka, and we have the match that gets interrupted when Bayley and the gang come down and wipe out both the competitors. Before too much damage is done, Bianca chases them off and demands a match later in the night with Io Sky. Well, with any of them, but it's later announced it's Io Sky. Justin, match ending, no contest. Is this something that all of us who are excited about a new era should be worried about?
No, look, I mean, sometimes a no contest is okay. Sometimes they're what you need, you know. And I'm looking at you, AEW. Sometimes you don't need to do 15 extra laps just to get to it, because you have to have a winner or loser because we have these win-loss records. Sometimes a no contest or screwy finishes or open-ended finishes are what you do need. You know, when you abuse that, like with anything, that's when it's bad. If every match is that, or if every week is that, or whatever. But no, I don't. You know, there's just a variety. You need sometimes that's just what you need. And I looked at Bliss, I looked at Asuka, I look at this women's trio faction of heels that they're getting over, that were all through the night. So no, it's right. It's pro wrestling. You use your entire tool belt. Just don't use the same tool for every damn match.
We have in the chat here, Michael Martinez with the question. So with this new management, should they revive King Woods and Queen Zelina, or has the ship sailed? Jimmy, I'll pass that one to you.
I don't know if they need to revive King Woods and Queen Zelina. You know what I mean? People have short memory sometimes, and you can bring it back and make it work. But at the same time, why not let them evolve into something different?
Yeah, King Woods had some great music, though. But
I will say that, yes, I will agree with that.
Gone forever into time, I guess.
Yeah.
We'll continue moving on as we get our second of the triple threats with a shot for the U.S. Championship on the line. Dolph Ziggler versus Ciampa versus Gable. A really good one, I thought. And Ciampa gets a big win. And those who expected Ciampa may do well in a Triple H run WWE may be right. Justin, this is a totally speculation thing here, but I noticed in these triple threat matches, you had AJ and Ziggler who were teaming before. You had Miz and Ciampa who were teaming before, but you had Gable and not Otis on the other side of things. Do you think maybe Otis might be breaking off on his own, or Gable's breaking off on his own, or is this just a weird one-off thing not to look too far into?
I mean, it could be. Otis is one of those ones that I don't know why. I thought they had something with him as a babyface. He's I always drew the funny comparisons. I called him WWE's Chris Farley, and he's from Wisconsin, as the late great Chris Farley is. So, and I thought he was kind of over with the fans. I always was kind of curious as to why they stripped that away from him and turned him heel. Yes, he's big and goofy looking, so that could be a heel, but he also just had a big goofy kind of endearment to him. So maybe this is a new creative direction of, okay, let's undo that. Let's get Otis back to his own thing. Maybe it was, let's not have Otis out there, because if Gable's not going to win, with Otis out there and Gable losing, it's going to get messy, or we're going to whatever. So ask me that again in another 3 weeks. Let me see if I don't see Otis out there with Gable for the next 3 weeks, then I'm going to think that they're rethinking the Otis creative. But overall, both this one and the other triple threat in this whole U.S. storyline, I got to compliment the guys in the transitions. Triple threat matches are, for fans, they're fun. For the talent, they can be a bit of a obstacle, because it just changes the dynamic of a normal match in some regards. Normally, you just got heel and face. You have all your traditional building blocks to a match of heat and shines and comebacks and whatever. When it's three, And so the dynamic is either two faces and a heel or two heels and a face. It just so I really got to give credit to all 6 individuals and between the 2 triple threats of how well I thought that they bridged all the gaps in the match and just it just looked fun and entertaining and got what they needed to get done. So that was my big note was props to them and whatever producers were working with them in that match.
Yep.
Jimmy, if you didn't know what was going on behind the scenes, if you were someone who just watches TV and you don't turn on Twitter or don't read all the news and stuff, on a scale of 1 to 10, how surprising is it that The Miz did not get through this, but Ciampa did?
If I was someone who didn't watch regularly or read all the stuff, I would be totally surprised because this match elevated Ciampa. Like you said, it was a big win for him. And it's actually what I wrote down in my notes. I think you've been reading my notes. I have big win for Ciampa because this is very significant for him. And you know, like I said, like you said, Miz is very recognizable amongst those who may have tuned out for a while because he has been around so long. So having Ciampa elevated in this situation against Dolph Ziggler, who's been around a long time, who also can help elevate someone as well, and Chad Gable, who I like to draw a little bit of comparison to. I want to see him playing a guitar backstage in the office. A little bit of a
tiny cowboy hat.
He has the same tools, in my opinion, to be that next Kurt Angle-ish type guy. So this is a big win for Ciampa. I think it surprised a lot of people. When I sat back and thought about it, it didn't really surprise me because of like people say, the Triple H era has begun, and this is someone that Triple H I think saw a lot of plus side in, and I'm glad that he's getting that opportunity. So it didn't surprise me, but at the same time, I'm glad it happened.
I want to point out too. So now Ciampa. He has a match next week, and they're in Cleveland, and there's been all this scuttlebutt about would Triple H go back to the well of DIY of Ciampa and Gargano, and Johnny Gargano, famously from Cleveland. My first indie company I ever worked with was based out in Cleveland. It was ran by Johnny's family. Johnny is Mr. Wrestling. He is Johnny Wrestling in Cleveland. So I don't know. I'm just speculating. I'm just going to throw that out there that when they did a little ticker and they're showing where they're on tour at the next week, it caught my attention that they're in Cleveland for Raw next week, and because also when they announced they were doing this whole thing of earning who's going to be the next U.S. challenger, U.S. title challenger, I thought very well. Okay, this is them just creating another match for the Clash of the Castle. That whoever gets this will be challenging Bobby at the next Premium Live event. But no, they're deciding to do this next week on Raw, which I don't mind. And then I saw the location. I'm like, it's just throwing it out there in the creative forces.
That's what's fun about this era of wrestling is that very well could happen. I think if this was happening 3 weeks ago, I'd be like, Justin, it ain't happening. Don't hold your breath. It is not going to happen. But now I'm like, you never know. It could happen. we could see this.
And that right there, Jack, is something to what I said to Alfred Saturday on SummerSlam podcast, is that it does feel like there's just this little bit of, there's this feeling of anything's kind of possible. Again, not to disparage Vince and all the things that he did for the business in the last 40 years, but he just had his ways. And so just naturally, and this isn't any job, if the top boss is replaced by a new top boss in terms of creative, it just naturally feels like, well, now anything kind of feels possible because we don't yet know what the boundaries are. And that's that's an exciting feeling. Again, not trying to, but that's just what this is right now.
So very excited about next week. But this week we still had Edge. He comes back, and this is where we get the superstar bit. He basically comes out and says, "My bad." Jimmy, do you forgive Edge for all the mean things he said about you?
Always. He has this way about him. Very apologetic fellow Canadian. It works for me. But at the same time, what I loved most about this promo seg was it wasn't one of those deals where he droned on and on and on. He came out, he said his piece, he got to the point, he told us why, he changed. They had a change of heart, so to speak. And then nobody came out to interrupt him and interfere and jump him from behind. He made his peace with what he said, and he got his story told and over with. And that was the main thing for me, that they didn't overbook this segment. They just let Edge come out, cut his promo, tell his story, and that was it, and get his applause.
Justin, was this enough to kind of push everything under the rug that he did with Judgment Day?
Yeah. To kind of to continue, Jimmy. I don't. If they would have done more, it would have been like, especially because again, we're going to see him later in the night. Mm-hmm. Part of me even wavers like, did we necessarily need this promo, or would have been better if we just didn't see him until the end of the night? But I think it was good because it was such a kind of he did take such a hard left turn. Was all, you know, I know Raj would complain about this, and I agreed with him to an extent. You know, Edge would come out and cut these promos with Judgment Day, and he was like he had such a disdain for the fans and it was like, well, the fans never turned on you. Like it was a weird manufactured heel turn kind of thing. So I guess him coming out and just kind of acknowledging that at least just puts it to rest. But I agree, keep it short, keep it sweet, especially again, we're gonna see him later. So you don't need to do too much more. I don't think, again, Edge, he's a baby face for life. Nobody's gonna. He's already in the Hall of Fame, and nobody's gonna look back and go, "Man, Edge really screwed his career in 2022 when he tried that little heel run." You know?
We're gonna have to take away that Hall of Fame because Judgment Day didn't work. I'm still blocked though, Edge. Anyways,
he blocked you.
He blocked me. I don't know why. I don't think I've ever tweeted anything about Edge, but in any case. I guess he'll never know if I do now anyhow. But we get...
I'm blocked by CM Punk, but so is the rest of the world.
So I don't know if I'm blocked by CM Punk.
I'd have to check.
But I don't know why he blocked me. I don't know. In any case, we finally get... Well, I guess Bayley says that she's backstage. She says that she's back because ever since she's been gone, the women's division has been struggling. So she outsourced some help. Io Sky shows up to face Bianca Belair, and they have the match, but of course, Bayley and Dakota Kai come out, and they start to get involved. So then Asuka and Alexa Bliss come out. They start to get involved. Eventually, it all breaks down into a big fight, and we're kind of seeing battle lines drawn here. Justin, this is... I guess just kind of establishing the bad guy group versus the good guy group. It was another no contest. But to your point earlier, I feel like this is probably the right thing. Any thoughts on this one?
I think the culmination of this here of the women for the night, it kind of again, it just perfectly kind of exemplified just having a direction, you know, not ripping a script up that you do a Raw on Monday, you know, and you task writers by, I think the following Wednesday or Thursday to pitch you a Raw script, and you're working on a Raw script and you're making revisions and and you're coordinating with talent and then still we're still ripping stuff up and rewriting it on the day of the show. This was the perfect kind of showing of like, have a direction, just have an idea. What do we want to accomplish? Let it be it's a 3-hour show, which is not fun. That's a tall task every week to have 3 hours. Triple H even said on the Broken Skull sessions years ago when he was interviewed by Austin, when it was in the old set, when it was a WWE Network thing, he even said one of the things that if he could change about Raw, he then didn't agree with it being 3 hours is a tall task. I don't know if Triple H is going to be able to change that. Maybe he can, but it's also a thing where I've said even the lowest rated and viewed hour of Raw is still better than pretty much anything else USA is doing. All that said, if you're tasked with a 3-hour weekly show, if you at least can have a direction like this where you can have a thread weaving in and out, that just goes a long way. And they did that tonight. So that's what I think was accomplished in kind of the statement by the time I saw this segment was, man, it's nice to see some continuity.
And Keith Robinson in the chat says, I really enjoyed how the women finally got a storyline that brought in 6 wrestlers involved and spread out throughout the night. And Jimmy, to piggyback on that, I think what makes this kind of thing great is I always say, to have a good division, you need to have a mid card to that division. And this, if we're going to have, let's say, Bayley versus Bianca, we now have that mid, quote unquote, for lack of a better term, of Dakota Kai and Io Shirai versus Asuka and Alexa Bliss. And so while one is happening, the other is happening. And when one title match is over, we've got someone who's hot to come take the title shot. So I love this. Do you have anything in regards to sort of how this was set up throughout the night? And Keith Robinson, real quick, thanks for being patient on your super chat. I wanted to wait till we got to the part of the show.
No, it's kind of like what Becky said at the beginning of the show, here to bolster the women's division, which is a very strong division and growing. And it is growing. They focused on the women's division at the start of the show. They focused on the women's division throughout, especially with the Alexa Bliss, Asuka stuff earlier. Again, Bailey and company coming out and doing their thing, and we got the big schmoz there. And then, the women were a major part of tonight's show, and I think that's a good sign going forward. I think we're going to see a lot more attention paid to the women's division with stuff, like you said, that makes sense, that showcases the talent that these women have in stories that make sense, instead of just, hey, we got to put the women on TV because some people like women's wrestling.
We continue on in the show as we finally get that matchup, Ciampa versus Styles, and I was absolutely blown away that Ciampa got the win here. I thought AJ Styles was a slam dunk person to win this thing, but that's why we watch the show. Justin, again, I like to ask you the hard questions here. So, is there a fear here that seeing Ciampa get this shot so quickly that people will start saying Triple H is just shoving his guys down our throats like one Vince McMahon used to always get?
No, I think it's like, I think there are guys. I don't necessarily know if they're Triple H guys. I think we're going to classify talent that were showcased better in the black and gold NXT than they were when they then got called up. It's going to be natural to say, oh, they're Triple H guys. That doesn't mean they're Triple H guys. It just means they were talent that were on his show. And if they were talent worth being on the show, he was going to treat them with a certain amount of dignity and book them such. There was nobody who was a regular in the black and gold NXT that was ever squashed or buried. We never had debates on these podcasts about, oh, so-and-so is getting buried on black and gold NXT. There was always an ends to the mean. If somebody lost several times, there was a reason for it, and then we explained it. Like, there was just, again, going back to the word I used a minute ago, the continuity. So it's natural. So there's this perception that Triple H has this group, these guys and girls that are Triple H guys. Yes, he may have been more hands-on in recruiting them or signing them, especially if they were indie talent. So we want to say they're Triple H guys, or girls, but it's just their talent that he felt was worth having. If they're worth having, they should just be, everybody should be given something to do. So I don't think that he's necessarily looking at I don't think he's looking at AJ Styles and going, well, damn, AJ's the big name that was established before he got here that didn't come to my NXT. They got the debut immediately on Royal Rumble. AJ's not a Triple. I don't think he's. I think Triple H is looking at like, oh, I'm in charge of creative for Raw and SmackDown, and I have AJ Styles to work with. Great, AJ can help make this guy Ciampa look like I've wanted him to look. Like he should. So I don't. Maybe I hope I'm answering your question, because this does get me fired up, because maybe Hunter 15 years ago when he was still an active talent, maybe there was Hunter guys. And maybe he was when he still had a certain position to hold as an active roster member. Maybe there were some guys he wanted to work with. Maybe there's some weren't. There's some that have stories. Jimmy was there at those times. That was a different time when he was in a different place. But now he's retired. He's an executive. He's got the pen now. I don't think it's as much as there's Triple H guys and girls. I just think it's people that have a history with him. And so he just wants to find a way to elevate everybody. If that answers the question.
Oh, and Jimmy, the other side of that, we have a super chat here, and it kind of goes very well with what I wanted to ask you. Kelvin R. Alexander says a heel had to win. Ciampa was the best option here. Do you agree that Ciampa was the best option of all the options that they had tonight?
I think, would I say the best option? I don't know if I'd say the best, but he is a good option here because he's someone new, he's someone fresh. And like Justin said, putting him in there with someone like an AJ Styles, who is an established, future Hall of Famer, it did nothing but elevate Tommaso Ciampa into a place where he hasn't been yet on the main roster. Yes, we know what his abilities are because we've seen it elsewhere. We've seen it in NXT. Triple H recognizes that, and he took full advantage of that tonight and elevated Ciampa to the next level. Will he get elevated next week to U.S. championship level? We shall see. It wouldn't surprise me if he was, but then you're going to get those detractors. Hey, he's a Triple H guy. That's the only reason he won the U.S. title. No, if he wins the U.S. title, it's because someone sees something in him that could draw an audience, that could draw people in and get people invested.
And for the record, I don't think Ciampa's going to, I don't right now. I don't think Ciampa's going to beat Bobby Lashley. But I think what can happen is that Ciampa just worked his ass off tonight, had some credible victories to earn this title shot. And so then if he goes and he does take Bobby to a limit, if he does get some good false finishes, they do get the crowd to bite on some whatever, even if Lashley wins, Ciampa's been elevated. So then the next thing that Ciampa does do, more eyes are on him, and maybe you revisit him in another few months of whatever. But like that's how you build again, and it's exactly what Triple H did in NXT. And not everybody could be world. Look, not everybody could be world champion in NXT, and not everybody was. But he found a way to make everybody matter and gave everybody something to do. So within the NXT context, they were elevated, and that's what I think he's trying to do. It's the same thing he's trying to do again with the women, with what you said earlier, Jack. 6 women were, and not all the women can't be women's world champion at the same time, but they can at least be elevated. So when push comes to shove and you need the next challenger, well, here's somebody that we don't have to, beg and plead with the audience to buy into as being a challenger. We've given them a reason to say they have some credibility, pay attention to this match or buy this match.
Yeah, and quickly, a little bit off the subject here, in that match with AJ Styles versus Tommaso Ciampa, I love the fact that they teased the countout finish with Miz interfering over there, hiding and stuff like that. They teased that countout finish because people were going to go, oh, of course he wins by countout with the help from the Miz. And even though Miz interfered, he did end up hitting his finish. And that's, again, what helped elevate him as well. Even though he got the help from Miz, still, he did it in heel fashion. He won, and it, again, elevated Tommaso Ciampa.
And D-Hub in the chat, D-Hub2332 says, we're not saying Triple H, guys. I just think Triple H pushes heels better than Vince. I don't know. Roman Reigns has been doing all right.
I think if we're going to do the critique of Vince versus H booking, I think that H can probably build baby faces better, because baby faces in 2022 are a lot harder than they've ever been. With social media and with the cool heel factor, I think that's where, when there's that argument that when there's always that underlying argument of Vince detractors, which I do believe some to this argument, that is he is in touch with what's going to resonate as a good guy with fans and what have you. That might be where H is more in tune of how do I sell a babyface to the crowd and not have it just get shit on, for lack of a better expression. Sorry for the kids there. Listen,
there's the explicit tag.
Yeah, right. I think that's where H does baby faces better, and that might be where the hope is, that we can build a few more baby faces to have sympathy on.
It will be interesting next week. What I'm looking forward to with that match, just I guess last thing before I move on, is a lot of people have said a lot of NXT guys are great, but they always say, quote unquote, the size is an issue. I think Ciampa versus Lashley is going to be a very interesting look into how they handle those kind of differences, because Lashley's about as big as you get besides an Omos. And I always, for some reason, Ciampa, I always feel like is bigger than he really is. I think he just has a stature about him when he walks out to the ring. But it will be interesting to see how they handle that, and if we can find some success there.
What's got Ciampa this far is the intensity in his facials.
Yes,
that's what makes him seem larger, Jack. Is that he has, he's only like 5'8", he's 5'9". He's not big, but he has such an intense kind of psycho look to him that kind of elevates him.
Yeah, because when he walks to the ring, like if he's by himself down the ramp, I always think he looks over 6 feet. But then, of course, you see him stand next to someone who's taller, and like, oh, he's not as tall, but it's just his presence, I guess. But speaking of guys who are smaller, doing well against bigger fellas, the Mysterios have a tag team championship match against the Usos. And my main thing about this matchup was Ray seemed like he was hustling in this match. This was a great one with the champs retaining. As simple as it is, I loved it because the titles were actually on the line. It was a great matchup. The champs win. Of course, the big story here, Jimmy, is post-match. The Judgment Day beat up the Mysterios. Edge comes out and he spears the wrong person before running off. Let me know how you felt about how they ending the show with the actual championship match that just goes the distance and the shenanigans at the end.
No, I enjoyed the match very much. I was expecting nothing less. I mean, you have two really good tag teams going at it. The Usos are just awesome. Rey Mysterio and Dom is starting to come into his own. I know a lot of people say he did. I'll be honest with you. I still think he needs a little more seasoning, but hey, you know, for the amount of experience he has, he's doing all right. But I love the fact that commentary used that, you know, like that inexperience is what cost him the match at the end and that sort of thing. So they are mentioning it at least. And the ending afterwards with the beatdown by Judgment Day and Edge coming out to make the big save and Rhea pushing Dominic into the spear. Does it matter? It looks like it's leading to something because, hey, you know, Edge speared Dominic. So this is another seed that has been planted. And who knows, you know, at WrestleMania this past year, we got father and son teaming. I'm not sure if it's the first time ever at WrestleMania, but we had a father-son team.
I think so. It was.
Yeah, teamed at WrestleMania. Maybe next WrestleMania, if they tell the story and they drag it out long enough, we have father versus son at WrestleMania.
That would be really cool to see. Now, Justin, I love that they did this because it felt like it was going to be a very straightforward 3-on-3 kind of thing. But this now muddies those waters up a little bit and adds a little gray area to it. This is something I don't think we've seen on WWE in a while, the gray area.
Yeah, I like, look, entertaining tag match. To what Jimmy was saying, but Dom, I'm a little with Dom. I think part of it, and this is unfair to him, obviously he carries the burden of being the son of Rey Mysterio. But also, when I see guys like Logan Paul coming in who have just blown us all away, I mean, I really haven't seen a bad critique of Logan Paul. So when I see guys that see guys like Pat McAfee, when I see guys that are coming from different worlds who have a love for the business and who are performing as well as they are on high profile pressure stages, it's unfair to Dom. I look at Dom, I'm like, Logan Paul kind of I thought he was more entertaining than you were, and you've had whatever. Nonetheless, what I liked here was exciting tag match. There was a point where we thought Dom had the pin. The crowd, it was the loudest the crowd had got, and it looked like, and it went to 2 7/8. We thought that the Mysterios were going to dethrone the Usos. They didn't. So exciting match. It ends at 10:57 Eastern time, and I looked at the clock. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, we've got 3 minutes. WWE times their shows pretty well. They've been doing this long enough. All right, if they're leaving 3 minutes, that's not an accident. All right,
right.
So that was exciting. So I was like, this show is not going to end on just a flat Usos retain, and then of course we get the. And so I like that. I even thought for a minute here, fantasy book, and I was like, well, Judgment Day's been trying to recruit Dom for so long. Maybe Dom's going to turn on Edge. Dom's going to help Judgment Day, and he didn't, and who knows what's going to happen. But I just like the fact that we just ended with some spice. I did not expect the Judgment Day to come back out, but they did. And the visual of Rhea in the corner with her legs choking Dom like a python. I mean, it was just a little spice, just a little unpredictable ending. You didn't know who you were going to see, and I like that. And to Jimmy's point, that's probably I got to think it's probably eventually what we get is Ray wanted to have a team with Dom for a while. He probably wants to eventually have a match with Dominic, and that will be that. So is it the greatest finish in the history of Raw? No, but I appreciated just a little spice, a little tune in next week.
Yeah, and that's the thing is it makes me want to tune in next week. I want to see what happens next, as opposed to just a beat down. You're like, okay, well, I guess they'll address like this made it interesting. This was like, oh, it wasn't just a straightforward ending. And By the way, Rhea Ripley is, in my opinion, the leader of Judgment Day. I don't know if I don't know how they rank it in Backstage, but Rhea Ripley, at least the MVP. It feels like she just crushes it whenever she's out there. I love seeing what she's doing. And to your point, not really relevant, but Logan Paul is way better than he has any right to be at this point along. I was blown away. I don't know what training he's done or like if they like worked out specifically what they were doing in that match or whatever, but this is 2 matches now. I'm like, dang, he's really good.
Yes, I know I'm talking about a huge high spot, but that dive from the top onto the table, onto Miz, there is so much that can go wrong in that with guys who have done it before. He landed that perfectly in a way where if he actually protected Miz perfectly on that side. I'm just picking that one spot, but like throughout the match, and he won over the crowd, which was the big thing, because in the wrestling world, outsiders, regardless of whether they're presented as baby faces or not, it's a tough spot for them because people say, well, these guys are outsiders, they don't belong here in our world of professional wrestling or sports entertainment. But man, he won over that crowd big time.
And Logan, if we're going to talk about Logan Paul real quick, I was one of the ones saying, why are we booking him as a face against The Miz? This guy's a natural heel, whatever, and his social media identity. But maybe because he is impressing the wrestling fans so much, maybe he is the face because because of the way he performs. And little things, Jimmy talked about the protection, and I agree. I saw the same thing. Another thing I saw, and Jimmy as a ref would appreciate this. If you watch Logan Paul and his match against The Miz, if you watch the leg that he decides to hook on all the falses and all the kickouts, but then the leg that he makes a point to hook when it was time for the 1, 2, 3. Just little things like that for a guy. Again, I don't know who's training him or who's teaching him that or whatever, but that's stuff that is just, WWE's been built on celebrity involvement. That's what WrestleMania is built on, right? But the celebrity involvement has not always been, it's been a lot of smoke and mirrors, right? Let's have Pat Patterson out there as a second referee to make sure, Muhammad Ali doesn't kill somebody, or let's send Snooki out there, but don't let her. It hasn't always been. It's been, we can get the names, we can pay them, but it's not always polished in the ring. Bad Bunny, Logan Paul, Pat McAfee. I mean, WWE is just hitting big time home runs with big time, big time names in pop culture, and so that goes a long, long way. It really does.
Yeah, I didn't have anything to do with Raw, but yeah, that's something I feel like you got to give that guy his flowers. He did a great job,
definitely.
But that's it. That's the show. I'm at a point where right now I'm very excited to see what happens next, which is something that isn't necessarily common in pro wrestling sometimes. And so very excited to see what happens next. Very excited to see what happens on SmackDown, and NXT 2.0 even has been a bit different to a degree. So very interested to see what happens next. Very interesting to see what happens with Theory, who wasn't on TV, by the way, or Omos, by the way.
Or Zeke.
Yes.
Or Zeke. Yeah. So interesting.
So is it safe to say that Triple J is interested to see what goes forward in the Triple H era?
Absolutely.
Or if we're doing all this guy talk, is Theory not a Triple H guy?
Ooh. Only one way to find out. You got to tune into us. Has nothing to do. You got to tune in here to find out.
Yeah. This is where you come to play the game.
Well, speaking of playing the game, DHub2332 knows how to play it right at the end here with the question. Last super chat: do you guys think Roman versus Logan box office just because he's a big athlete? Justin, that sounds like your question. Could you see Logan Paul getting a shot at the strap?
Look, I'm going to be honest. That's not the most out of this world thing. That's also something like, I'm going to be honest. That's something to where I could see them putting on like a Saudi show. If Logan Paul's got 24 million Instagram followers, I gotta imagine that his followers are worldwide. Maybe that's something to where, again, you're just looking for just to get headlines and marquee. I mean, at this point, I don't know who dethrones Roman. I don't agree that it should be Drew. That's a whole other podcast, as we'll get to towards Clash of the Castle. I think you just built such equity and credibility with Roman that it's got to be a big damn deal to take it off of him. So I don't think Logan Paul's the guy to dethrone Roman.
Could you imagine?
But I can't deny on paper, Logan Paul has performed as good as he has. And Roman Reigns, you put Roman Reigns, and then you put that is a sexy marquee on a lot of different channels. So for a show, for the Saudi shows that are basically paid spot shows, they're not always linear with storylines. I would not be offended if that's something that happens. Going back to Cleveland next week, Logan Paul is from Cleveland, so who knows? So. But to the super chat, I don't think that's the craziest freaking idea to have Logan Paul challenge Roman Reigns if you just need one-off marquees for Roman to have part of and defend his title.
True.
Oh, every near fall people would be invested because they'd be like, yeah, that would actually.
Triple H is going on Logan Paul's podcast this week. Maybe Logan Paul starts to make a pitch to Triple H, like, give me a. Look, I've won two. I just won a match at SummerSlam. Give me a shot at the strap.
There you go.
Hey, I mean, Paul McAfee got Vince McMahon's last match that way, right? Or with Stone Cold. Anyways, I don't know. But the point is, the show's over. Let's wrap it up. We've been going for that does it for us. Thank you to everyone in the chat. But before we go, Justin, where can the world find you and all the stuff you're working on?
At Justin LaBar across all the platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Here on Wrestling Inc. I'll be back Wednesday night after Dynamite. And as always, please tweet me. Let me know where you're at in the world listening. Always love to see how far-reaching we are.
And Jimmy, where can the world find you and all your ranting?
Oh, ranting, of course, here on Twitter at Jimmy Korderas. Instagram is at Real Jimmy Korderas because apparently somebody else took the name. But anyway, that's a different story altogether. But no, like I said, have some fun there. And I have my little cups and stuff like that I get to drink out of and so forth. And T-shirts are out there. You know where to find them if you know. And I will be back Wednesday with Justin as well, looking at Dynamite and just enjoying all pro wrestling.
Why can't you be the at Real Dimitri Korderas?
Ooh. Well, you know what?
Don't make fun of the real thing. I'm at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. That's where you.
But I don't know. I don't know a bunch of fake Jack Farmers.
Someone got Jack Farmer before I did on one of them, and I wanted them to all be the same. So
stop using the word fake. It's sports entertainment Jack Farmer.
It's predetermined Jack Farmer.
In pro wrestling, we don't use the F word.
So that does it for us. Thank you to everyone who's in the chat one last time. Ricky Zaldivar, Dream Realm Studios, Rocky, Mr. Impact, Tuck Graph, Baby Ice. Jax is in the chat. Didn't shout Jax out. John Everett, and Deadpool Party, Chris Aldridge, me, Meow Puss, and more. Thank you so much. That does it for us, and we'll see you all next time.